Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Hi, Virendra. Hi, Faheem. Yes, we can hear you.
Hi everyone.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is having a good day and is full of excitement for the today's webinar. While we are waiting for more attendees to join, uh, we have a very quick poll for the audience. How familiar are you with the concept of competitive intelligence? How well do you think you understand competitive intelligence in pharma industry? Please move to the chat box and uh, put in your poll and share your thoughts. Now you
So,
can move to the chat box, and there you will see the poll option, and you can choose the option that you want to answer.
it's a triangle, rectangle, and circle icon.
Yeah. To the audience, guys, we are trying to have an interactive kind of webinar, so it would be really helpful if the audience keeps answering the polls that we have in between the webinar today. Okay. As I said, it would be really helpful, people, if you would, answer the polls. It helps us to understand and, kind of take our webinar in the way people are, it's easier for you to understand. Please head to the symbol button. There's a symbol on the right side of your screen, which has a triangle, square, and a round and a circle. Please click there. You will see a polls option. Click on the polls option and you can choose your option that you want to put in.
I think Vartika, we can keep recording the poll responses in the interest of time.
Yeah.
Let's give another minute for the people to join and formally start the webinar.
Yes. Yes. I will just begin at 12:04. Okay. Let's begin now. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Vartika Jain, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all for our webinar on unlocking career opportunities in competitive readiness for pharma drug development and commercial strategy. Next slide, please. Today, we are diving deep into the world of competitive intelligence and explore how it can shape your career in the pharma industry. We'll also talk about staying updated on the latest trends and technologies while building a robust skill set to address the evolving challenges in drug development. Whether you are an aspiring pharma professional or a seasoned industry veteran. This webinar will provide you with actionable insights to enhance your career prospects and achieve sustainable success in the competitive pharma landscape. To maximize the value of this webinar, please feel free to ask questions throughout the session. Use the Q&A function at the bottom right of your screen. Click on the three shapes, the circle, square, and triangle at the bottom right. Select Q&A and post your question there. Next slide, please. So today we are joined by an incredible line of experts, each bringing a wealth of experience in different facets of the pharma industry. First up, we have Atul Banerjee, consultant and former leader at ZS Associates and Accenture. He is a seasoned strategist with over 30 years of experience in the pharma and biotech industries. Next is Faheem Rasheed, a life science expert with a proven track record in competitive strategy and business intelligence. And then we have Kumar, MD of Adamet Next, a CI expert and an entrepreneur with a deep understanding of global pharma business. I would request all three of you to please briefly introduce yourselves before we begin our webinar.
Faheem, you want to go first?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Hi guys, I don't know how much I should reintroduce myself, but I'll do a quick summary of where I've come from. So I actually studied chemical engineering at university, coupled with a master's in management, and there I got my first experience of working within a pharmaceutical company, GSK, to do my thesis, and it was at that time I didn't realize I was using lots of principles of marketing strategies. And once I did my master's, I actually then moved on to a company very similar to Data Monitor, where we published therapy area reports, and then from there I moved to a small boutique competitive strategy agency, strategy consulting firm, where I got the first taste of doing primary research, so speaking to key opinion leaders and industry folk across, scanning different therapy areas and indications. Over 5-6 years, I accumulated and harnessed my skills in project management, in presenting to senior leadership and working cross-functionally. And I then decided to move on to understanding how consulting firms that work with pharma, that send so much insights, information, strategic recommendations, how it's actually used internally. So I decided to do some stints with a couple of pharma companies, Lundbeck, Shionogi, working their commercial function units, very small ones, but working their commercial function within business intelligence, working on a number of streams cross-functionally again. And it gave me a great insight actually to see how decisions are made and supported using a different array of analytics that are fed through doing things internally and through consulting firms. And I crossed paths with Virendra and Adamet Next many years ago, where we worked on a conference together, and ever since then our relationship has blossomed into Brick Academy.
Thank you, Faheem. And thank you, Vartika, for making this event possible. And thank you, everyone, for joining us Saturday afternoon. My name is Virendra, and by qualification, I'm a pharmacist. I did my B Pharmacy from DIPSAR, which is now DIPSARU. I'm basically a Delhiite now, settled in Hyderabad. And then I also did my MBA from NIPA Mohali. I came across competitive intelligence in 2009 when I did my internship along with Value Edge. The founder name was Rohit Anand. So, at that time, we were doing some market research in India. And then I got my first opportunity to work with eValueServe, where I used to work with Bayer Pharmaceutical. Uh, and that's how we got exposed with the term competitive intelligence, what exactly they do, what is secondary market research, and how the operation of these big pharma company differ from the Indian pharmaceutical companies. Uh, I worked with them for 2.5 years, and then I got a chance to work with WNS, where I work with GSK analytics and forecasting team. That's a different form of business intelligence. And then I moved back to Big Pharma, where I joined Novartis in 2014, their respiratory team, and we learned about how we can use competitive intelligence, how we can use various other functions in order to drive integrated insights to drive the global brand strategy. And in 2019 onward, we came out and we started, distributing this information, this knowledge with the other ecosystem, people in with the other in this ecosystem, how they can make most out of their careers, especially those who don't want to take the research and development side of the field in their career. So, looking forward to an active participation during this session. Over to you, Vatika.
Thank you, Viren. Thank you, Faheem. I'm very sure that the audience today is very excited to hear from the two of you and learn from your journey in competitive intelligence so that it may shape theirs. Um, okay, so before we kick off, we have a quick another question for the audience. What is your primary goal for attending this webinar? Do you guys want to learn about career opportunities, gain more industry insights, network with experts? Let's very quickly have an opinion here. Okay, and for the last question, what we understand from the audience right now is our audience is somewhat familiar. The most of our audience is somewhat familiar with the concept of CI, and I think we should be able to convert more people into they know a little more, or they're very familiar with CI. Okay, so now let's hear from our panelists. Viren, to kick things off, can you elaborate on the critical role of CI in various stages of drug development, your views on what CI is, and how does CI move from early stage of research to commercialization? Over to you, Viren.
Thank you, Vatika. And to begin with, uh, somehow, let's first simply understand why competitive intelligence is required. And this is my favorite slide, which you can see on the screen, is what is the difference between riding a bicycle versus, you know, driving a aeroplane. And I'm not sure if many of you have thought about why you need a driving license for, or a pilot certificate for driving a aeroplane, but for bicycle you really don't need a driving license. And obviously you need a training, but you don't need a certification from somebody that you can really ride a cycle. And what I reached to a conclusion that it is primarily depend on the level of risk associated with each activity. So if you are riding a bicycle, even if something goes wrong, the maximum you can harm is yourself. You can damage the bicycle, or perhaps if you bump into two, three people, then you can injure them. I really doubt you can literally kill somebody with a bicycle. Uh, I'm not sure if it's remotely it's possible. On the other hand, if you are driving an aeroplane, so first of all, it's a very expensive asset. It's cost millions of dollars. Uh, then, if you are driving a passenger plane, then obviously you have people at the back of the plane who are riding with you. So if anything goes wrong, then there are too many lives are at risk. And if you if somehow by mistake or deliberately, if this aeroplane land into on a particular building in a residential area, then those lives are also at risk. So the risk potential that is much higher when you are driving an aeroplane, and that's why you see, on your screen you can see so many navigation, so many screens, tools which are there to help a pilot to make sure that their asset is in good condition. All the internal systems are working good. Then there are also external systems to ensure that there is nothing in their path, the weather is good, there is nothing in front, to ensure that they have a safe flight. Uh, it is very similar when it comes to leading a business, because at the same time you have so many stakeholders. And when it comes to biopharmaceutical company, it is like, you are riding an aeroplane, because if anything goes wrong, if people are not acting responsibly in the drug development, then it doesn't only have an impact on the company, but it also has a impact on the patient, their relatives. So if anything goes wrong, then the outcome can be catastrophic. Next slide, please. So I did mention about there are so many lives are attached when it comes to a biopharmaceutical company. So this slide highlight who are the key stakeholders, and these are some major ones. So there are patients, healthcare professionals, your physician, nurses, pharmacists, a pharmaceutical company themselves. There are academic institutes also attached with them, colleges, and the non-profit organizations, regulatory authorities, US FDA, EMA, and the respective authorities in their own countries, insurance companies who are directly, indirectly, paying for the services. What actually they want, and in general, just like any other industry, if I summarize, everybody want cheaper, better, and faster products, solutions, services. So what does it mean? Uh, if I start with cheaper, that means whatever new products we are developing, they need to have a relatively less cost. Better in terms of the product needs to be more efficacious, better safety, and perhaps easy to use when it comes to convenience. And faster, the way I define it is in terms of when we are using this product or a drug, its impact needs to be visible as soon as possible. So it shouldn't be like you are using a drug now and you are unable to see its impact for next 6 months or 1 year. Perhaps it's possible in some conditions where the recovery and impact takes a longer time to show. Next slide. So when it comes to competitive intelligence in our industry, I personally call it science. And it is not only about systematically collection of data. Uh, it is not like that. Why I call it science is because you call it science when you make something more predictable, probable. Probable means you can actually assign what is the probability of success, what is the probability this particular event, success or failure. You can assign some probability. And rational, you can also explain why something is happening, why something is not happening. So within your CI process, if you can make it more predictable, more probable, and you can also explain why something is happening, uh, that means you have a scientific process to for your competitive intelligence. And that's something we make it possible at Adamatnet. It is not only about collection of information, it is not only about analysis, but can you really uh, assign probability and predictability in your business. Next slide. Uh, it is also drug development is a very costly affair. I'm sure you guys are already aware of the drug development phase, how a drug moves from preclinical to the launch and approval. Uh, what the key message I want to highlight from here is, because it is a business, if the product is not a right market fit, if there are some challenges with the product, then it's better that the product fail as early as possible. Because if it is failing late, then it is causing a lot of financial damage to the company. And it's basically the waste of resources. So, all if the failure needs to happen, it needs to happen early. But if the product is reaching to the approval and commercialize, then it is the responsibility of the company that it also achieve the commercial success, which means the product is good enough, it's a good market fit, it is prescribed by the physician, and it is also used by the patients. Next slide. So in order to understand the role of CI in the drug development, so uh, we just saw that it's a long development process. It takes roughly around 10 to 12 years. So can CI help in drug development in early stage, where you are actually picking the right asset, setting the right direction, and you are basically committed for a long-term development of a particular product. Then when it comes to the long strategy, can you define a right focus when your product is coming out? Where would be the focus? Where is the high value, high business is there? Uh, why the regulatory or the insurance companies, first why regulators needs to approve it, and then why the insurance companies or the payers needs to reimburse it, and then maximize the opportunity, that launch the product as early as possible. We all know that it's very remotely possible that you are the only one who's developing a drug in a particular area. Uh, but if you are the one who's launching the drug early, then you also get an opportunity to set the rule of games. You really don't need to follow somebody else. And last but not the least, how to sustain in this competitive world where everybody is trying to get a higher share of market. Then how can you sustain better with your competitor analysis, playing on your strength, and also optimizing your distribution channel, how you can be better in a particular market, and all the markets, and by market, the region, country, they all behave differently. So every country, every region has to have their own unique analysis to understand the competitive dynamic of the country. With that, I'll hand over to Atul.
Thanks, Ian, and apologies for my late entry. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll talk
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Atul. Just before you bring in your insights to this this webinar, we come up with another question for the audience. That what is the most critical stage that you believe or you think is for CI in drug development? And there's a question for you, Virendra, as well. Before we jump into the next part of the webinar, is how can pharma companies use CI to optimize their drug development pipeline?
So first of all, we need to understand, what do you mean by optimization? Okay. So optimization means that no company has unlimited resources. Unlimited resources means nobody has unlimited money. Okay. So, and we know that in order to develop a drug, you need to spend roughly around $2 to $3 billion on a particular asset. So when such a significant money is required, then you can only spend that much money on, two, three, or couple of assets. So by optimization means that you optimize your resources and identify those targets, those molecules, which can, stay relevant in the long run and also provide a good return on investment to a company. So with the help of competitive intelligence, we provide enough data and evidence which sets the path for the future investment for a pharmaceutical company. So as I mentioned earlier, if you need to drop an asset, a drug, in an early stage, so it needs to happen as early as possible. You can't, as a founder or as a company, you can't say that, okay, at phase 3 we realize this product is not relevant. Okay, I think that's a very significant resource of waste of resources.
Right, absolutely. And also, just your insights on the current slide that you see. That what do you believe? While I understand all the stages are very important in the drug development for CI, but what do you believe is the most important one?
The most important one, I would say, stage 2 and 3. This is where you are still, navigating the uh, navigating the drug development direction. So, and usually at the pre-launch, the major investment happen. This is where you start hiring people, you start engaging with stakeholder. So stage 2 and 3 are the most critical one from the CI perspective.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have the maximum votes also in the stage 2 and 3. So yes, people who answered that clinical trials and pre-launch are the most critical stage, you are on the right direction. To people who are raising hands, if you have any question, please feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A box, and that we will address those questions throughout in between the webinar. So now let's hear from Atul in detail about the CI offerings, the techniques that we use to do competitive intelligence, and different challenges and opportunities that CI presents. Over to you, Atul.
Thanks, Ritika. So before I dive into this slide, it's quite text heavy. Around 25 years ago, I did a marketing thing where the person explained to me what marketing was all about, and it's the first time I ever heard the term competitive intelligence. He said that imagine a long time ago in a small village, somebody is setting up a stall to sell, rocks or herbs or whatever they sold back then, a few thousand years ago. And everything's going well in trading what they have with somebody else, with the people who lived in the village. And then one day somebody came and set up another stall next to them, selling exactly the same things or similar things. That is the starting point of understanding why the things that we do is important in any industry. Because that person selling the rocks or herbs suddenly had competition. And they had to understand that in order to sell their goods, they really need to understand the stall next to them, what they were selling and at what price and what other services they were doing. So that kind of really went into my head as to why the things that we do is important for any kind of business, whether it's small or large, and any industry. Now, in the field that we're in, primarily pharmaceutical and the drug development process, and you've already covered all the different stages and all the different things that we do. So let's just go through this list of services. So we do primary research and secondary research, pulling that together to give insights to our clients. That's fundamentally what we do. But in terms of the different aspects, pricing, market access, so this is all about understanding when a drug company sells their product to customers, and the customers will be the hospitals, will be the trusts, will be the healthcare authorities. What pricing do they negotiate with the pricing regulatory authorities in each country? And how do they get that drug to the clinics and the hospitals and ultimately to the patients? That's what market access is. Now, we do that through all the different types of researches that we do. Deep dive research on the right-hand top right is looking at a drug in a much more sophisticated way, looking at when the patent is about to expire, what the impact that will be. That's an example there. Understanding a competitor in a much more deeper way. That's competitor profiling and monitoring. We also keep tabs on competitors in a particular field to see how their drug development is going. and how their trials are going, what KOLs, the key opinion leaders, the doctors who are involved in either running the trial or in receiving the results of the trial, i.e. prescribing the drugs to their patients, what they think of the different developments. Competitive landscape is a much more broader view of what's going on for a particular therapy area. And we do quite a bit of that, because if a company that we're working for has a drug being developed for a particular area, maybe it's a new area for them, they want to understand who they're competing against. And at the same time, while we're doing this landscape study, we might identify new opportunities for them. We've done that a few times. So for rare diseases, for example, sometimes not enough companies are developing treatments for a particular disease area. So that could be an opportunity for a company. One of the ways we understand what's going on with companies is to speak to their investor relations departments. That's the IR call analysis. And they have these regular calls with their investors, which is more of a financial update in terms of revenue, sales, progress of launches. And so we monitor them, and then we can pull together the insights from that. And we can also create a reporting dashboard for our client, so that all the intelligence that we're gathering gets put onto a central place, so that it's much easier to figure out what's going on and compare between competitors. And finally, going around to conference coverage. This is one thing that we like to do quite a bit, because it allows us to go to these big conferences that are held around the world, where all these pharmaceutical companies will be holding a booth. They'll have their people there. They'll have salespeople, marketing people, MSLs, investor people, and they'll have a place where we can understand what they're presenting for their own products, what their messaging is. So it's a great place to actually have a face-to-face conversation. Let's go to the next slide. Some of the tools and techniques. So on the left there, you see a number of tools. So we do use technology. We monitor what's going on in social media, because pharmaceutical companies have entered that world as well. They'll have people who are putting in social media things about their products, things about their services to patients. And this is all about offering more than the competitor, or the same in some cases, in order to differentiate themselves with others. Some of the databases that we look at, IQVIA, Evaluate, they have a lot of information about the drugs and their positioning, their pricing, where they're launching, what stage they're at. Publication and patent service software, these are other bits of software that allow us to understand when a drug is going off patent. Viren, I apologize if you've already explained this, but basically it takes around 10 to 12 years to develop a drug, and they spend billions doing it. And so these companies really want to protect that investment that they put into developing a drug. And so they apply for a patent that protects that drug for a certain period of time. Now, generic companies and biosimilar companies and other companies can't copy that drug or do another one until that patent expires. So we monitor when that's going to happen. I won't go too much. You can read the other databases, but basically we look at different databases. On the right-hand side, you see the techniques in Pharma CI. So this is what I said right at the beginning, what we do. Primary research, secondary research, looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, analyses, pipeline, which is about looking at what they're developing and what phases they're at, benchmarking, comparing different companies with each other. One of the things that we do quite a bit are something called war games or scenario analysis workshops and strategy games, which is about getting a client, one company, splitting them into different groups, and each group becomes a competitor. And then Faheem, myself, Virendra, we facilitate a discussion between those different teams within a client. And it's really, really fun. Each company really becomes a competitor, and they can then attack each other's strategy and strengths and weaknesses. And Porter's 5 forces analysis and 4 corners analysis actually is what we use as a model to run those war games. PESTLE is a bit higher level. That's much more to do with understanding the industry and the marketplace. We can sometimes advise clients when they're thinking about where to develop their drugs, what kind of market to go into. That's the kind of analysis that we do. And scenario is, we've done that quite a bit. A company is about to launch their drug. However, a number of competitors are either already in the market or also about to launch their drug. And we want to play different scenarios. And for each scenario, we develop an action plan so the client knows what to do if one of those scenarios actually comes to be.
So I think because there is a question related to how M-Pharm student can prepare themselves for the CI role. I think this is the most critical slide which Atul is presenting right now. So if you are not familiar with these terms, then make yourself familiar. I think even if you bring the these in context in your interview, perhaps it can really put you in a very good spot. Go ahead, Atul.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone who does either a marketing degree or an MBA will come across this kind of thing. And it's not specific to the pharmaceutical industry. These are standard strategy consulting type models. Next slide, please. Navigating opportunities and overcoming challenges. So this is an interesting slide. Quite an important one, actually. So on the left-hand side, you've got the opportunities that clients, our clients are looking into, which is why they hire people like us. Obviously, we offer them insights that allows them to make informed decisions. That's fundamental to everything that these clients do. Quite often, when our analysts are doing the work, what they're doing is doing research. They're looking at publications online to see what people are saying about certain things. They're talking to all the different sources, doctors, KOLs, marketing people, company personnel. And that's what they're doing. But actually, the result of all of that work goes up the chain to the board level at these companies. And sometimes analysts don't realize that, how important this kind of work is. And at board level, the head of CI, the marketing director, uses the insights to feed into the decision-making process of these companies. We also do benchmarking and risk management. That's really important for companies to understand who they're competing against, how they compare to them, to weigh up the risks of going in a certain direction. You might have mentioned it at the beginning in my intro, but I used to work for ZS Associates, which did a lot of risk management and cannibalization and mergers and acquisitions. And that's exactly the thing that these clients used to do, is to weigh up the pros and cons of acquiring another company and the impact of two portfolios coming together and what would happen. Innovation and market positioning. I mentioned about identifying new opportunities and new markets for these companies. That's a very important aspect of what we do. But also, sometimes companies want to join forces with others or acquire smaller companies in order to acquire their portfolio. It's much easier if a company wants to enter a certain therapeutic area, and sometimes cheaper, to buy a company or a small biotech company that's already got products in that area, rather than developing it themselves. All right, let's look at some of the challenges. This is becoming increasingly important. Data overload and information access. When I started, and Faheem and I started in this field, there was very little information out there that you could just use technology to assimilate or ask ChatGPT to ask a question and come up with a whole list of things. We literally had to call people and pull together insights from lots of different sources and see what was out there, which wasn't very much. And in some ways it was hard, but other ways it was easier because people were much more willing to speak than they are now. Now, it's almost the other way. There's so much information out there. Our job is really to sift through the noise and to give our clients proper insight, not just information, because anyone can gather information. And that's partly what's been happening with the influx of AI. Ethical and counterintelligence risks. Right, so there's two different aspects here. when we conduct primary research, we are told through certain SCIP regulations. SCIP is the Society of Competitive Intelligence Professionals that we adhere to, and market research adherence as well, is that we are not supposed to lie to anyone, and we're not supposed to misrepresent ourselves to anyone, and we're not supposed to steal from anyone. Those are three fundamental things. So we can't really be getting information in an unethical way. And that could get us and the client into really big trouble. And it's happened before. And there are some examples in the industry, and offhand, I can't remember. I know Coke and Pepsi had issues, Ferrari and McLaren had issues in Formula One. And I'm not going to mention the ones in the pharmaceutical industry because there were some cease and desist and there's some lawyers involved. But there's been a number of times in the pharmaceutical industry where a client has found out that an agency has been using intelligence gathered for multiple clients, and that's a big no-no. The other thing you have to bear in mind is that when we are doing this research, these clients themselves have been trained to deal with people like us. That's what counterintelligence is. And so we have to be really mindful of that when we're speaking to people, particularly at booths in conferences. They'll have people on the booths who kind of monitor everyone who's coming in. They'll scan their badges. They'll figure out who they are. And that actually, is an important aspect. I used to train clients about counterintelligence as well, but it makes our lives a little more difficult. But this is why this whole area is becoming much more sophisticated. Analysis, complexity, and skills gap. So that is a big challenge. We have a lot of young people coming into this field who think, oh, this is really easy. I'm just going to, get a question, stick it into ChatGPT. I'm going to look at online to see what's out there and pull together something. It's really, really basic. And clients are sophisticated as well. They've got tools internally. They've got tools to actually go through all of the written documents that we give them and see if it's been plagiarized, see if the text is being copied and pasted off the internet. So, we really need to be much more sophisticated now in how we deliver insights. And that's where this technology integration comes into it. So we really, we do use AI, we do use tools that help our lives in this world, but we have to use it in a much more sophisticated way because ultimately everything we do, as in all intelligence gathering services, everything is ultra confidential. In fact, the way we operate is multiple layers. So a client will hire an agency who will hire, analysts who will hire researchers, and all through these different layers, nobody knows really. They shouldn't know who they're working for. So by the time the person who's actually talking to a competitor, they won't know actually. They'll just be researching a particular area. They won't know who's hired them or who the end client is. And that ensures a layer of confidentiality that protects everyone. Over to you.
Okay, so we have a very inquisitive audience, I think, today. So, Atul, there's a question for you, and that would be that how would you ensure the accuracy and reliability of the data? We've talked about data overload and information access. The data that we're collecting, how do we ensure that it's accurate, it's correct, it's reliable?
Yeah, sometimes we can't, but most often what we try and do is corroborate through multiple sources. In our field, we provide confidence levels to our clients, ranging from 1 to 4, for example. If we happen to know or even speak to the CEO or the VP or a very senior source, and they tell us things that we generally trust what they're saying because it's coming from a very, very high source, and that's a good confidence level. If we speak to multiple people who say the same thing, that's also a high confidence level. If we speak to somebody who heard that somebody heard somebody else say, just one person said that, that's very low confidence. So it's all about triangulation of different sources saying the same thing.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question for you, which says that how do you prioritize competitors that you want to focus on? What would be your parameters of selecting the competitors?
Yeah. So this is all about threat analysis. Which one is the highest priority depends on what the client is doing. Are they about to launch into an existing field, and therefore are they going against a company that's already got a product in the market? Are they competing against somebody who's also developing the same product as them? And are they going to launch it at the same time? Or are they going to a field where there are multiple generic players or biosimilar players whose drugs are there at a very low price? So if they go in, they can be against lower price drugs. So it depends on the scenario, but we do the clients ultimately and us do the analysis as to which one of the competitors is highest threat to them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and also you were speaking about biosimilars and generics. So we have another question, that are generic companies also using CI for strategic planning and decision making? And if not,
Oh,
then
sure.
how can CI
No, everyone is. I mean, you'd be dumb not to, frankly. I've worked a lot with startups, people who've come up with a business idea and they think it's a great idea and they want to get some investment money in and launch this idea. And the first thing I say to them, has anyone else done it? And so often people don't even do that basic bit of research. And that's from just an idea stage. So any company out there always is thinking about, I'm spending loads of money to develop this drug. Who else is out there doing the same thing?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Okay, another question. As you explained about counterintelligence, what would be the parameters that you will scrutinize the data for its reliability?
What are the parameters that I would scrutinize the data for reliability? Okay. Okay, so there's two parts to that question, right? Counterintelligence. What is counterintelligence? Counterintelligence is developing a system within a client or a company that allows them to understand what's going on out external to their environment. So their competitors, their market, the industry, the regulation. So there needs to be a process or a system within a company that enables information to be easily pulled together and disseminated. And it sounds like it's a simple thing to do, but in a company of 1,000 people, how do you actually do that? If a salesperson is out there in the field and hears from a doctor that they just saw a rep who was talking about a new drug in the same area that rep is trying to sell into, that's really important information. How does that information get back to the directors and the board level within that pharmaceutical company? So
sometimes they don't even have a channel.
Right. So counterintelligence really is a system to enable that flow of information from all the different sources, from the people who patients ring up to, customer service, to the sales guys, MSLs, to people hearing things, KOLs, doctors that they have relationships with. Everyone is hearing stuff. How do you get all that back into a place, into a portal even, into an internal protective portal where CI people and marketing managers and brand managers can go to and see what information is being collected. So that's counterintelligence.
It's also, a little, a challenge, because you also need to make sure that whatever you are putting and circulating within the organization, is it really reliable, or is it just a rumor?
That's the second part of that question, right? What are the criteria? So all of this stuff comes in, and it has to come in, even if it's rumors. And then we have to apply our analysis and techniques to sift through that noise to figure out what's real and what's not. And that's where we go back to the corroboration and the triangulation and checking of sources, right? To make sure that the source is a proper source, that is not just a rumor, that it's been validated with multiple other people. And that's really how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think data validation and data triangulation becomes the key when we are doing our research. Okay, there's another question, I think, which I would really appreciate all three of you giving your experiences from your long careers, is what are the key challenges that each one of you must have had faced during a project? Any real life example, the most tricky project, whatever. Any insight?
Yeah,
So
I mean, while you guys are thinking, there are always
Go ahead.
projects where questions are asked which are really tricky to get answered or are impossible to get answered. Okay, generally these days it's all about pricing. What or investment. How much investment is a company putting into a drug, or what price are they coming out at launch with? These things are very closely guarded. It also, there's another aspect to it. So it's not only difficult to get, but it also raises alarm bells. The moment you ask somebody, what price are you asking, selling this drug for, or how much money have you spent developing this drug, the shields go up, right? So these days, what we tell clients is don't even go there, because if somebody from the outside called you and asked you how much money you're spending in this drug, you're not going to tell them, right? So don't expect somebody like us to try and get that answer for you.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to say the same thing actually. Setting expectations with your clients, as you've said, Atul, they believe that CI experts can get every little detail possible, within a brand plan or investment thesis. But if it was turned around, they would be shocked and surprised to hear that their employees are leaking out such information. So I think the challenges are to set expectations, what is real, what is feasible, and what's a dream come true if it was possible.
So I have thanks, Faheem. I have multiple examples. So considering if you are somebody who are developing a drug at early stage, phase 1 or phase 2, so competition is not only seen as a threat, it is also seen like a validation. Okay, so for example, if you are trying to develop a drug with a particular mechanism of action, uh, so the question comes, are other people also investing in that direction? If the answer is yes, that means at least there is a validation in your process that you are trying moving in the right direction. Now the second question comes, how fast they are moving and how fast we are moving. So if somebody and there are 4, 5, 6 players who are moving ahead of you, and that you will be in a market 5 year late or 10 year late, then it doesn't make sense. So it's basically, does it make sense for you to get into the market or don't get, or shall you drop the plan? Okay, so these kind of questions we also answer. Uh, then, as I said, if there is a if there is a customer who's planning to launch a drug, for example, in next 2 years, and they had this in mind that we are going to be first to market. So it is our job that we validate, are you really first to the market or you are second to the market? And what if something goes wrong, then how much delay are you anticipating? How much advantage you have? So these are on the development side. Then there is also question related to what is the right go-to-market strategy. That means if you have a product approved in hand, what is the right way of marketing it, right way of launching it? So then there are so many analogs are available. We can research and provide. When you are there in the market, then obviously it's not going to be a red carpet for you. People will try to ensure that you don't get the desired outcome. Then how they are trying to counter your product, how they are going to counter your messaging. Sometimes there is also a misinformation in the market. Then we also provide that how the competition is circulating misinformation about your drug. So that is something we also share. So there are so many, that's why I always ask that try to understand the business and see it from your own lens. That what if somebody asks you to do it, what kind of question you will ask, and then anticipate those questions from your customer. And then and then that's what always keeps a CI person or a business analyst on their toes.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you everybody for your experiences and sharing experiences. Can we move to the next slide, please? We are moving to the most important part, I think, in the sense of the people questions and their opinion. We are moving to the most asked question about the skill set that's required for anybody who wants to venture into the field of competitive intelligence. Right now on the screen, we have a question for the audience that if it's one skill that you want to learn, or what would it be? Please head to the chat box and put in your thoughts there. So now we will have Faheem, who is going to discuss the most important skills and competencies required for CI role, one of the most asked questions in our chat box today.
Thank you very much, Ritika. Here's just a quick slide, I guess, just to show the roadmap of a potential journey that you could entail within, I guess, competitive strategy, competitive intelligence, business intelligence. One thing to note is that if you go into competitive strategy, this doesn't mean that you have to stay in competitive strategy for the next 10 to 15 years, for the rest of your career. The interesting aspect of where we work is that it's very cross-functional. So when you're working within a pharma organization group, if you're sat in, this box of CI, you'll be liaising with and you'll be working with people from different departments, be it from marketing, be it from branding, be it from medical affairs, be it to sales effectiveness, with sales backgrounds, and all the way up to the CEO, as Virendra mentioned before. So rather than just going, analyst, manager, director, you can go sideways to different silos as well, because the experiences that you gain and the competencies that you enhance actually put you in good stead for other more strategic roles within the organization. But if we just stick to CI for now, you'll just see this, career progression. If you're new to CI, you'll start as an analyst where you'll do the data gathering. That's potentially what you'll be doing at an analyst level. Once you progress, you'll start to use those, I guess, data that you're amassing internally through primary or secondary to actually tease out, okay, what does this actually mean, right? You're finding this data to actually answer a question, and that question could be on multiple levels, or it could be an overarching, a big, broad question to help your client. And then as you move to senior level, to say a CI manager, this is when you're probably interacting with more diverse set of clients, presenting more, leading CI initiatives, being able to interpret the bigger picture at every level of your the CI initiatives, and almost designing how you would actually answer a question and helping navigate your client in actually setting expectations that they're happy with, and that that you're able to deliver on, most importantly. And like Atul mentioned before, there's many specialized across this spectrum. There's many specialized types of engagements that you'll be working on, and you'll be learning, from different parts of the pharma business, be it market access, be it product launch strategies, differentiation, messaging of an asset of your client, to regulatory timeframes, clinical trial timelines, regulatory, I guess, output in regards to the FDA, the EMEA, the type of filing that a competitor does. So you'll be learning so much on this progression. And like I said, those tools that you start to experience, you can use it outside of competitive strategy. Next slide. Right. So I've been noticing, and Vertical, you mentioned this. What the key question, I guess, that pops up and has been popping up for a while now since we've been doing these webinars. Okay, look, I've done this degree. Hundreds and thousands of you guys are brain smart. You're very intelligent. I've noticed myself when I've been to India and Hyderabad that you guys, have wonderful intelligence, which is great. So the next question naturally is, okay, what skills do I need to harness? What do I need to develop to be able to go into, this diverse industry that we work in within pharma? So here's a snapshot, I would say, right? We've got two types of skills that we're looking for. We've got your technical skills, right? The technical skills is something that Atul just mentioned before. Your principles of marketing strategies. You'll learn, if you not come across these, you'll inevitably will come across these in your reading. Typical analysis like SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Porter's 5 forces again, and then PESTLE. So these are frameworks that you can use to feed in your data, to be able to present and package to your clients in a framework that is universal, that your client will understand and will help them assess the market and the competition. Then you've got your typical, I guess, tools that you use, such as Excel, and more notably nowadays, Power BI. These are, I'm sure we've heard of the term, data mass. The amount of data that we're collecting these days is so much. So there's these tools in Excel, pivot tables, Power BI, with tabs, with hundreds of tabs dashboards that you can use and collate the data and analyze the data in an automated fashion to give you a trend, to show you actually what it could actually mean. And then you're, I guess, learning or even presenting, storytelling. I think nowadays it's about telling a story. 20 years ago, it was about actually just displaying the information on a slide. I think now, when you're presenting to a client, you want to tell a story. You want the people to be engaged. Right? It's not just about just information. You want your attendees, when you're presenting face to face or on this forum, to feel, to have specific feelings, and to navigate those feelings. You want to be able to effectively tell a story. And so PowerPoint skills, to present, are skills that you need to really be able to get on top of, to engage your audience. I think it's very important. I think also, coupled with technical skills, soft skills are very important. I think being able to communicate is very key within a team, cross-functionally, different people from different backgrounds, to be able to speak one language. That's very important. To be able to get on with people. I think that we overlook that, right? To be able to be part of a team. Effective communication. This will come over time. Once you immerse yourself in many of the I guess fundamentals of marketing strategies and competitive strategies, you'll start learning the language, and you'll be able to communicate in that language. And like I said, I've said this quite often already in just 5 minutes, of cross-functional collaboration. I think that's very important. I think once you immerse yourself in this industry, you'll realize that there's so many moving parts to actually a pharma company developing a drug, over the 15 years of a drug coming in, and then another 10 to 15 years it being on the market. That there's just so much collaboration and so much cross-functional communication that it's key that you're able to understand people from different backgrounds. And additional skills, I would say, project management, that I guess ties in with report generation and I guess effective communication, discussing with your team members and discussing with I guess collaborating with your client. And I think these are, I would say, the technical skills. We'll answer some more in the Q&A, but I think this is a good snapshot of what is required to be a CI professional. Next slide. And like I said, the progression is very, very diverse. When we are looking at the different types of progression that you can do, because of the cross-functional element, you can work in, or you liaise with sales and marketing, so you can move into that, or you can be more operational within strategy, or you can focus beyond competitive intelligence and the broader term of business intelligence, looking at data analytics. So the skills are very transferable. You work in forecasting, for instance, you work in competitor analysis, at the same time you're relationship building. So the skills that you use within CI, they're very transferable. Hence why when you're working cross-functionally, you can move in different silos. I think the rest is pretty much what we've already discussed. Being able to interpret strategically, actually translate the data that you have into the so what. Okay, tell me what this means, to a bigger picture. What would it mean to me as I don't know, having an asset in diabetes, that's the fifth in line, because there's so much competition, okay, what would it mean to me? How do we outmaneuver? What's the play here? So that's very important, to be able to translate and tell a story to your client, to be able to effectively communicate beyond the data, beyond the facts, and not hearsay, but I guess opinion that's been driven in the market. And then so across the board, you've got different types of, I guess, players that you could potentially think about to work with in CI. So you've got your bread and butter pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, and then you've got your market research, which is slightly different to competitive strategy and competitive intelligence. But you've got organizations that look at competitive intelligence, and you've got consulting firms, your McKinseys or your ZS associates, as Atul mentioned, that actually do use elements of competitive intelligence. Even Accenture, for instance, I know the life sciences practice use quite a lot of competitive intelligence. Then you've got specialized CI vendors like Adamant Next. You've got others that actually specialize in competitive strategy. And you've got healthcare technology companies, and you've got even CROs, and you've got pricing organization companies. So you've got a vast amount of groups of I guess, specialized companies that actually use competitive intelligence, competitive strategy in different forms and in different layers, with varied outputs. Next slide. As I said, I won't spend too much time on this. So, these are just certain companies that you have within the groups that I've just mentioned, and you can look at this slide yourself. It's self-explanatory. That there's so many vendors and actual companies that work in the space that the opportunities are a mass. And if you're hot, you've got the picking of these companies, and don't feel pressurized to just jump on board in one of these, I guess, groups. Do your homework, know culturally if they're a fit, and kickstart your career.
Thank you, Faheem. That was very insightful, and I think couple of our questions from our chat box must have been answered. But we have a few, like for example, can we move to the next slide, please? And all of you, please feel free to drop in on any other question that you have in the chat box. In the meanwhile, we'll address the questions that we've already received. So, fine, we have another question, which from an MPharm student who's asking that how should they be preparing themselves for an interview from the campus, and also that how can an MPharm student equip themselves to be at par or at at the level of an MBA level graduate. What are the key skills that they would require?
I'm not too sure. I mean, I guess Virendra can chip in here about the MPharm and what they teach in MPharm, but I mean, I guess just from a general perspective, if you're going into an interview, you want to at least know some of the pharma trends that are ongoing, right? So even like the easiest thing to do, let's do a Google search. Let's read a magazine. There's plenty of material out there. What are the trends? What's going on in the pharma industry? Because you can use that knowledge in your interviews, or your interviewer might ask you, okay, tell me the 5 things that are going on in the pharma industry right now. Let's discuss them. How do you do that? Like I said, there's lots of publications that you can read. Pharma Voice, Fierce Pharma, Pharma Executive, even outputs from conferences and events. Sometimes they have large events, conferences that are put out, and they share I guess presentations. Go through LinkedIn. A lot of companies now are presenting free material that you can read on biosimilars, AI, lots of things going on LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest thing to do nowadays. Speak to people within your network. I think they're pretty much the bread and butter right now. What do you think, Ren?
No, absolutely. So the thing is, I always tell students that don't be an ostrich. So those who are not aware that whenever there is a danger, what ostrich does is dig a hole, वो गड्ढा करता है, अपना सर गड्ढे में डाल देता है, and then it thinks then there is no danger there. The other thing is it's a misconception. लोगों को गलतफहमी है that somebody is doing an MBA, they have an advantage in doing CI. It's a biggest misconception. बहुत बड़ी गलतफहमी है. It's about you are preparing yourself, getting ready for this job, and that is the only reason why we are conducting these webinars, to make people aware. Now these webinars are just a starting point, that now whatever terminology you won't able to understand, whatever concept you won't able to understand, the expectation is you go out and do your research and make yourself ready. People are asking for internships. The thing is, the key question you need to ask is why people should offer you internship. Why only you? Why not other 10,000 people who are asking for the same? Okay, so at your level you have so much competition that if somebody is a little proactive, they will get an internship. And perhaps those who are thinking that okay, पहले कोई आएगा, they will hire us, फिर हम लोग सीखेंगे, I think that time is gone. So we at our organization, we always look for people who are, we call the word hit the ground running. So we don't want to start from scratch. We don't have so much time to waste on people. After 3 or 6 months, we spend on somebody and then realize, okay, it is not working out. So nobody, time is the money. Nobody has time to waste.
Right. So, ye MPharm students, don't worry. MBA students are as naive as anybody else. And the key, as Virendra said, is be prepared, come prepared. Don't be absolute novice when you're interviewing for not only for CI but for any domain. Don't be a novice. Read thoroughly. And when we see read, we have another question, which is what are the emerging trends in pharma industry, and how do we keep up on top of every trend? How do we, keep up on learning from those trends?
So pharma industry as a whole is huge. Okay. We can speak from we can bucket it, for example, where the innovative companies are focusing. So you will see that they are going ultra rare indication, they are into biologics, they are into gene therapy, RNA therapies. So those, and perhaps this is what people might find surprising, because in your institute you are still learning about small molecules. Okay. Generic molecules. You are reading about those, but unfortunately, it is not adding any value. Okay. Then there is another trend, patent cliff, that in next 10 years, how many drugs are getting off patent. So these are the opportunities which are coming. Uh, okay. I would recommend start attending the IR call, investor relation call of at least top 10 pharma companies, and then you will see that in which direction they are making investment, and you also start reading about those. Atul and Fahim, if you want to add something.
I think you said it.
No, I think that's in line with what's expected.
Okay, and now that we're speaking of biologics, what would be the approach? What is the difference in approach, or what should be there, and what should be the mindset for the same when we are working on a biologic?
So the critical aspect is you ask this question: why the business has shifted from generic small molecule to biologics. Okay. And then you will see that certainly these drugs are more efficacious, better, but at the same time they are also very difficult to copy. So what does happen is, when something is difficult to copy, that means you will have a biosimilar, the equivalent word we use for generics. So it is also difficult for companies to form biosimilar. So that means if a company able to develop a biologic drug, they will able to reap out benefit for a longer period of time. So people know that patent is valid for 20 years. But if you have such a complex molecule, you might not face competition for 25 or 30 years. And then perhaps because there is also a concept of scaling up, that how fast you can, how much volume you can make. In case of biologic, it is not that simple. Okay. So everybody want to, again, simplifying the business concept, uh, take a competitive advantage and sustain it for a longer period of time, as long as you can.
Right. And now we have another question, which I will break. There are three different questions, but I'll just make them one. That how does CI work in one post-market release of a drug, in product development, and in med devices? So basically, they're asking how does CI work in different facets of pharma.
I can take the medical device piece. End of the day, every business is the objective is simple. That they want to make revenue, and they want to they want to stay relevant as long as possible. So even in medical devices, you want to benchmark your product, that whatever you are developing, is it unique? Is it relevant? You don't want to invest in a product which was relevant 10 years ago. Okay. And you also don't want to invest in a product which will become outdated in next 5 years. Okay. In order to do that, you definitely need to have your competitive, screening of the market.
Right. And for post-market release of a drug.
So
Yeah,
I mean, it's what we said before, right? Every aspect of the drug development process, from clinical trials to launching to post-market, it's important to understand what your audience's views are, the KOL views, but also what competitors think and what they're doing as well.
So when the drug is out there in the market, it is not. So we all know that pharmacovigilance is part of compliance. Okay, that will gonna happen. But your customers, your physician, nurses, ecosystem, how it is actually absorbing your content. Is it something in line with your expectations? So we use the word J curve. Okay. So first 3 years are most critical for any pharmaceutical drug. Is it getting absorbed? Is it getting prescribed? Is it prescribed at a right rate? Is it getting reimbursed? Is it getting covered by insurance companies or the national formulary? So those are some very important things which a company needs to measure for the commercial success. And this is where the CI team can play a very significant role, considering that as I said, competition is also validation. You can learn from your competition. What worked for them might also work for your product as well.
Right. In the interest of time, we will have just 2, 3 more questions. Uh, One is how real world evidences and CI related. Are there any example where we can, talk about drug development and drug repurposing?
Certainly. So what usually happen is you have manufactured a drug, you are selling it for a particular indication, but when the drug is out there in the real world, then you realize that your customers, your physician and patients are using the drug completely for a different purpose. Okay. So these are some clues that you designed a product for something else, but now they're using for something else. So this also create an opportunity for a pharmaceutical company to research a new indication, a new use of their own medicine, and then perhaps get a new approval for their drug.
Right. So I think enough about learning more about CI. Coming back to the internship opportunities and skills, the question is that if you could list out a few companies that can provide internships to the pharma students in the CI domain.
I think there are anyway we have already talked about those companies in the slide. So the moment you write competitive intelligence in Google, you have so many companies operating in the domain. The key question you need to ask is why they should pick you. So there is a saying, right? So if you want to invite ants, be the sugar. Don't chase ants.
Right.
I would also say to that, I was just about to say, I would also say that even if a company isn't really advertising, be proactive. Get yourself in front of that company, show them that you can think outside the box. Sometimes it's worth sending an email, sometimes it's worth connecting with someone that works for my company. Say, I'm interested. Is anything going? Show that you've got to think outside, the tools of just applying.
Actually, to link both Viren's sugar and Faheem's be proactive, I would say one more thing, which is use your network. There's no bad thing of nepotism. So yeah, just contact as many people in your network that you know, and somebody will know somebody will know somebody, and maybe a door will open for you.
And the important thing is, internships are very handful. Okay. So for example, even our company, perhaps we cannot accommodate more than 5, 6 interns in a given point of time. So what if you don't get an internship? So, people need to be more proactive, get whatever opportunity to get to maximize, to get an internship or an early stage opportunity. Yeah. Go ahead, Ritika.
Yep. So just ending the Q&A session with one last question, and I think within this one could be directed towards you. That somebody is fascinated by how insights are translated into strategic decisions. Could you share an example of how Adamant Next CI approach has helped company adapt to unexpected challenges, and what could be the key takeaways for a newcomer that from those challenges that you've overcome?
So we have, I think we take a lot of pride in, being the early warning system of a company. Okay. So we are working for various customers that we are, watching their space, what their competitors are doing, what are they communicating. The success of CI is killing any sort of surprise for our customers. So it is not about providing solution, but the success of CI company is, are you, flagging a problem, advance in time, so that our customer can sit together and discuss a response plan. That's the CI's, the success of CI. Okay. The CI success is not to give a solution. We are not the subject matter expert or the business expert here. The decision maker is somebody else. But our key role is, are we providing them enough time that all those key senior people sit together and discuss a response plan? If there is an event already happened and it catch the senior leadership off guard, that's a complete failure of a CI.
Absolutely. So I hope people have gotten their answers, and this was an insightful session for them. Can we go to the next slide, please? What you see on the screen is again the first question that we had before we began our the webinar. We just want to understand if how this webinar has helped you all. Can you please go to the chat box and answer this question? And for the rest, maybe the questions that we couldn't take up, maybe in sometime next time for the next webinar, we'll just save those questions and answer them. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope this webinar has provided you with valuable insights into the world of competitive intelligence and its impact on the pharma industry. Our esteemed panel of experts has shared their invaluable insights, highlighting the evolving role of CI in the pharma landscape, the tools and techniques to do CI, real-world challenges and opportunities, along with the essential skills and career paths in this exciting field. As we've seen, CI is no longer just a tool for gathering information, it's a strategic advantage that can propel your career to new heights. Next slide. Before we conclude, and I think this was again a question in the chat box, we'd like to introduce you to our new learning opportunity, the upcoming Competitive Intelligence course. We will be launching this course somewhere in 2025. This program is designed not only for the students, but also for the professionals who are aiming to deepen their skills in the pharma CI. For more updates, please follow Brick Academy on LinkedIn and Instagram. You will be kept posted on the further updates for the program. Next slide. In closing, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the panel and to all the participants who have been the part of today's session and of other sessions of Brick Academy. You guys have been the success factor of all our successful webinars. To continue learning journey, we encourage all of you to keep networking with the fellow CI professionals, stay updated on your industry trends, and invest in continuous learning. Thank you, everybody. Thank you once again for your participation. We hope to see you at our future events. Have a good Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Vartika.
Take
you,
care,
Atul.
guys.
Thank you, Faheem. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the organizing team. Bye-bye.
Thank you.